Something really important happened 5,000 years ago, and it's called the Neolithic Revolution. Before the Neolithic Revolution, we're living, human beings were living as hunter-gatherers. And so I'm not religious, but I'll mention something from the Bible. So in the Bible it says that there's Adam and Eve, and Eve ate the apple, and they were purged from the paradise. And in the paradise, they could actually talk to animals. They were able to, they were a complete balance and peace. Again, I don't subscribe to any religion, but I feel like there's seeds of certain truths that could be applied to it, because certain hunter-gatherers, like they can still up to this day can communicate with nature in the way that it's been described in the Bible. And so by us kind of leaving the paradise and establishing our own civilization, saying to everyone that, look, we're human beings, we're separate from the nature itself, and we're going to go and establish our own way of living, separate from nature. And that's exactly what happened 5,000 years ago with the arrival of agriculture. Slowly but surely, they started to keep like captive animals at their camps, let's say, or they would just use certain seeds that they'd find in nature, like a wild wheat and things like that, and they would grind it and eat it. They started to develop fields. And in order to create a field, you need to go to the forest or some other place where the soil is fertile, remove all the derbies from it, and actually plant seeds in it. But you would want to protect your little garden, and so you would naturally want to put borders on it. And the first mentioning of the box was an ancient Egyptian writing, and the box in there represents a field. And if you look around us, like we're living in the box world, like all the buildings around us are made out of boxes. The floors are made out of boxes. There's literally everything has 90-degree angles. There's no boxes in nature. You cannot really find a box in nature. It's completely impossible, because even if certain objects in nature look like a box, they would not be a perfect box. And with the invention of the box, we've invented the box way before we invented the wheel. And that box was the boundaries for us. This was really limiting. Of course, it would protect us. It would give us borders. Let's say we would build a castle, or we would build some kind of like protected camp from outside invasions and things like that. It would protect us, but it would also divide us. And the box is really ancient, and it marks the stamp of our civilization. What it did, it actually separated us from ourselves. In Peru, there is shamans that, like they have a certain name for human beings, and it's being translated as animated earth. We're walking and talking earth that walk upon itself and self-realizing itself. And we're part of the same organism that the earth is. We're not human beings, we're pieces of the earth walking around on itself, and again, realizing itself, and the reason why I emphasize on that is because on my opinion, this is very, very impactful to not only human beings, but everything that is around us. And we cannot treat pretty much our like our mother, or like that we walk upon, like as garbage. We cannot treat it as something separate, something like an outsider, something like from a different planet. We cannot just walk on ourselves and think that it's nothing, or it's a background, or something like that. It really impacts our well-being, and if we're going to be in harmony, which hunter-gatherers were, in harmony with nature. They didn't want to expand. They didn't want to have more and more land. They didn't want to expand and to have conquests, to have more resources and things like that. And if you talk to modern hunter-gatherers, the main thing that makes them happy is to have enough food, is to have enough things to eat today. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about yesterday. They're not thinking about guilt and shame. They're thinking of that. At this moment, I have everything that I need to live. And so therefore, I'm happy. That makes a fundamental difference with the mind of a contemporary human being, because it's constantly being torn and twisted by different ideas that have no connection to the happiness and our overall well-being. The reason why I started to talk about the boxes, because and the fact that we're Earth, is because all of these cave paintings were done before the arrival of the civilization. I started to research more about geometric shapes and the squares and the circles. And the circle is present all over nature, anywhere. If you dive into the ocean, or if you let's say, look on land, you'll find circles everywhere. The moon will be in the circle. There's everywhere you will find a circle, and the circle means birth, and it also means, in my opinion, it means like a female energy, whereas the box means the male energy. So our civilization was created by male-dominated ideas. To divide, separate, limit, put in the manageable position, and not only, I'm not talking about the things of our, that we use day to day. I'm also talking about our minds. Our minds were put in these confined spaces. All the human ideas that we have, they exist in the metaphysical plane, but we can materialize them through ourselves. The metaphysical world and the physical world are about to collide. And when that's going to happen, things are going to be very interesting, because we're going to be encountering ideas rather than a physical object. And what I'm saying by that is that it's already been kind of happening with, let's say, Airbnb, with Uber, where these companies don't really own houses, or they don't own cars. They're owning an idea, and people believe that idea. People use their idea to create a certain service, to provide a certain service, but yet the idea itself has no material substance. And more this is going to be implemented with the arrival of cryptocurrency, for example. Cryptocurrency is an idea. It's not a physical object. But if you want, it could be turned into a physical object by you cashing out from the cryptocurrency, for example. I know that because a lot of the ideas that are coming to me from the metaphysical world are want to be materialized through me, and I'm open to these ideas, and I'm transcribing them into the physical world. But you also have to keep in mind that all these ideas are beings that want to materialize. I felt like it was necessary to talk about metaphysical world, because it is looming, it's on the horizon. And as much as people talk about, let's say, transhumanism, and injecting ourselves with, let's say, nanotechnology, let's say healing diseases with nanotechnology, clearing the arteries of our bodies with micro robots that will, let's say, get the plaque out of our blood vessels and things like that. I feel like, I don't want to say it's going backwards, but we have so much untapped potential that we haven't even touched. But we're already using crutches because we're thinking we're so limited in our interaction with the world. Knowing that we're Earth, knowing that there's this untapped, uncharted world that we have within ourselves, so vast and deep that it will take us lifetimes to explore. Yet we're still fascinated with nanorobots, Like, and that is the duality, I guess, of human existence. I feel like there's still so much evolution that we can go as species, learning about ourselves, because no one really knows what we are and for what kind of purpose. And you know, whenever you talk to people about this kind of things, you know, they always think about this. Well, this is like philosophy and things like that, and it's not really real. And but nobody knows what real is. And I find myself realizing that no one really knows what things are. They could be viewed from many different angles. Everything can be viewed from many different angles. But no one knows for sure. Of course, we can call, let's say, a certain object a certain name, but it's not really going to describe its essence. I feel like what's going to describe its essence is your interaction with that object, and by you being completely present with that object. And of course, it's really easy for me to say, well, like, I'm this and this much years old, I live at this place, and things like that. But these are just labels on top of nature. And it would be the same thing if you go to the forest and like write down your own labels for every little bush and put them on the bushes and just leave them there. And if somebody comes in, another human being is like, look, there's berries, you know, like there's this tree, there's oak, and there's pine in there, you know. But all these trees and then berries, they don't care. It's not really what they are. They're way more than we can describe them. And you know, that applies to us as well. I can say it. I can put a certain label on myself. And tomorrow I could be, I don't know, logical. And the next day I could be stupid. And the next day after that I could be very clever. And the next day after that I could be nagging. And the next day after that I could be something else and something else and something else. And all of these things are me. But they're none of these things in particular. And that's where the art exploration takes place. Is I'm trying to understand myself. I'm trying to understand the world. There's so much to create. There's so much to do, and it just blows my mind. You know, like I would probably need a lot of lifetimes to create where I really wanted to create. You know, because it's just not enough. And I realized that there's only so much you can do in a day. I feel like an artist is standing at that boundary of existing and not existing, exploring what could be done with both of those things, and implementing them into the world. So it's kind of like a wild ride, you know, like especially if you're a full-time artist, you're being completely submerged into these things. And just to tell people to be aware of how unlimited they are. And I'm not talking about a physical existence, you know. I'm also talking about their imagination. And the reason why I talk about imagination, because it's a very powerful tool of creation. And yeah, I could go on talking about imagination if you want me to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
Well, I think about the fact that, first of all, imagination is really depends on your focus, on your attention. And I think that attention is very expensive today. Attention spans are lower than they ever were, and it's very difficult sometimes to catch someone's attention. And you would have to make a content that just like jumps like off the page to catch somebody's attention, because people are, you know, they're having too much visual stimuli, and there's such an abundance of it that, you know, people are drowning in it. If you look at certain thing for long periods of time, then you can transform any object, a human being, anything you're looking at by just looking at it. Because I perceive it as more of like a ray of transformation that comes with attention. And so every time you're, let's say, having your attention focused on certain objects, let's say for a week, you will completely transform that object by just looking at it. We will start to make additions, you would start to make subtractions and things like that. We're very powerful creators. And we're creating with our attention. But people are not being told that they're creators. They're being told that they're nurses, wives, husbands, plumbers, things like that. But we're constantly creating, not only with our attention, but every time we breathe, every time we walk on anything, we change the structure of a micro world, and we're just completely changing the way things are just from the fact that we're walking on the soil. And so, these are the micro changes that we create, and no one really sees that as creation. They just think of it as but it changes the whole thing, from these micro changes, the whole thing changes. And that's why we have to be aware that we're creating every time we talk, every time we breathe, every time we do anything, every time we eat, interact with other people, and all that brings change. A lot of times when people talk about creative people, that they're mentioning that they mean only selected group of people, and they are they can do whatever they like. They can paint, or they can write poetry and things like that, and they're allowed a bit more than everyone else because they're creative. But in my opinion, everyone is, and you cannot not create. That's the thing. And by putting, let's say, creative people in that box of understanding that only these type of people can create, the people that are not being called creative people are literally missing out on their creative power. And it's just like a vast amount of people. And, that, in my opinion, that's a really big problem, because people creating certain things they're not aware of, or they're not being really conscious creators because they don't know what they're doing. They're not aware of the fact that they're making changes to the whole world. They're not aware of the fact that they have immense power at their fingertips, but they think it's something that's not very worthwhile. They think it's they can't really create. And as a result, they create unconscious things. They create problems for themselves. They create things that are creating problems for other people and things like that. And it just creates a big chaos. It creates a big mess. Because it hasn't stopped, creation hasn't stopped. It's like, it can't stop. It's like breathing. It's like living. It's, it's endless. It is not just the isolated act of being concentrated on a certain object. It is continuous, and it's endless.
Wow.
A lot of these cave paintings, they're thousands of years old. It's not like I created them myself. These are actual fossils, if you wish, and I kind of dug them out from archaeologists, from historians and things like that. So, I have here Siberian moon man, which was discovered as an Okunev culture. It's about 4,500 years old. It's been created by the people that supposedly crossed the Bering Strait and populated the Americas. Also, you have Circle of Friends, which is a pictograph from Utah. I think it's Escalante. That's a national park there, and I pretty much this is the original, and all I did is I cleaned it up, added some other things that would be resonant with it, and made it interactive. all of these pieces are interactive. So, you know, depending on the color that is being flashed upon them, they're changing. And so they're ever-changing paintings, and I have not seen anything like that before anywhere.
What do you want people to gain from experiencing this?
Well, I would want to give them an idea that this is not a static image. And we ourselves are not static. We're not just a picture. We're like forever changing. It's not just one view. There's 10, 20 different ways to look at it, you know, the same thing.
What do you see when you look at these paintings?
Well, I see our roots, our heritage, of what we are, really, you know. How we see the world in a primitive way. And yeah, you know, I see myself. Everywhere I see myself, you know. And these are kind of the paintings to showcase that, you know. That's how I see myself sometimes, I guess.
How so?
You know, well, is because like if you're, let's say, not being trained to paint, or if you're not being trained to draw, these are kind of the things that you might draw accidentally, you know, like, or you would just draw them just because, you know, like they're not really trained, you know, they're not really, it is not something specific. It's just like stick figures like this, you know, like we all drawn as children, you know, like it's just the basic understanding of the world. And that is why I see myself and I see other people, I see children's drawings, and I see our roots in it, you know, because that's where we come from. We're coming from this basic understanding of the world, and I'm adding like interactivity to it. So choose to make people pay attention to it, because I think that those things are valuable, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is the value?
Substance that you can use to grow. You know, like to, you know, in any direction that you want to. You know, like for whatever reason you might benefit from. Yeah. So that's what I think the value is for anyone or anything, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think the power is of going back to the roots?
Well, it's the power of going back to your own roots is that you can compare, you know, what you're doing right now to what, you know, you were doing before. And you can see that certain things that you're paying attention to might not be very important. Or you can see, you know, like you, how would I say, your true self. Because I think that's the biggest journey for all of us, is to find out who we are. You know, like, and that makes it way easier. Because you can see that if you're only going to be looking at the contemporary things or things that are surrounding you, you know, like they might not represent you in the most authentic way, because they might just be decorations that surround you. But who you are is only for you to realize, you know, like, and those things, those images might be useful at bringing you back to yourself. And yeah, that's why I think it's good. That's why I think it's necessary, you know.